Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, today's video is going to be different. I've been wanting to share this story for a long time, but honestly, it's taken me years to feel ready. This is the story of how I went from rock bottom, absolute soul-crushing rock bottom, to becoming someone I never thought I could be. Someone ruthless, not in a cruel way, but in a way that means I don't let life push me around anymore. This is my transformation story and I'm not holding back. It's raw, it's real, and it's long, so grab a coffee, settle in, and let's dive into it. I grew up in a small town, the kind of place where everyone knows your business, and if you don't fit the mold, you feel it. My family wasn't rich, but we weren't poor either, just regular working-class folks trying to get by. My dad was a mechanic, always covered in grease, and my mom worked part-time at a grocery store while raising me and my two younger sisters. Life was simple. But even as a kid, I felt like I didn't belong. I was quiet, awkward, and always in my head. School was rough. I wasn't the kid who got picked first for teams, and I wasn't the one invited to parties. I was just there, fading into the background, trying not to draw attention. By the time I hit high school, things got worse. I started noticing how other kids seemed to have it all figured out. They had confidence, friends, plans. I had none of that. I'd spend hours in my room, sketching random things or playing video games, escaping into worlds where I could be someone else. But real life? It felt like a weight I couldn't lift. I remember my sophomore year, sitting in math class, staring at a test I hadn't studied for, feeling this pit in my stomach. It wasn't just about the test, it was about everything. I felt like I was failing at life, and I was only 15. That feeling followed me like a shadow. I barely graduated high school, scraping by with C's and D's. My parents didn't know what to do with me. They'd ask, "What's your plan, Alex? College? A job?" And I'd just shrug. I didn't have a plan. I didn't even know who I was. After graduation, I got a job at a local warehouse, moving boxes for minimum wage. It was mind-numbing, but it was something. At least I wasn't sitting in my parents' basement, right? Except that's exactly where I was living. I'd work, come home, eat junk food, and zone out in front of a screen until 2 a.m. Rinse and repeat. That was my life at 19. Then came the first real blow. My dad got sick. It started with a cough that wouldn't go away, and before we knew it, he was diagnosed with lung cancer. My dad, the guy who could fix anything, who never complained, was suddenly fragile. I watched him go from this strong, gruff man to someone who could barely get out of bed. The medical bills piled up, and my mom was working double shifts to keep us afloat. I wanted to help, but I was barely making enough to cover my own expenses. I felt useless, like I was letting everyone down. Dad passed away when I was 21. I don't think I've ever felt pain like that. It wasn't just losing him. It was losing the chance to make him proud, to show him I could be something. At the funeral, I stood there, staring at his casket, promising myself I'd get my act together. But promises are easy to make when you're emotional. Keeping them, that's the hard part. After the funeral, I spiraled. I started drinking more than I should have, not like party drinking, but sitting alone in my room with a bottle, trying to numb everything. I'd show up to work hungover, barely functioning, and it wasn't long before I got fired. That was rock bottom. I was 22, unemployed, living in my mom's basement with no money, no direction, and no hope. I remember one night, sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at a half-empty bottle of cheap whiskey. I didn't even want to drink it. I just wanted to disappear. I thought about how disappointed my dad would have been, how I was letting my mom and sisters down, how I was letting myself down. That night, something clicked. It wasn't some dramatic movie moment with inspirational music swelling in the background. It was quiet, almost numb. But I realized I couldn't keep going like this. I didn't want to be this person anymore. The next morning, I woke up with a headache and a decision. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I had to do something. I started small because, honestly, that's all I could handle. I cleaned my room. I know that sounds pathetic, but when you're at rock bottom, even making your bed feels like climbing a mountain. I threw out the empty bottles, washed my sheets, and opened the blinds for the first time in months. It wasn't much, but it was a start. From there, I made a list. Not a fancy vision board or anything, just a piece of notebook paper where I wrote down 3 things. Get a job, get healthy, figure out what I want. That list became my lifeline. The job part was the easiest to tackle, or so I thought. I applied everywhere: gas stations, retail, fast food. Rejection after rejection came in. I wasn't qualified for anything better than what I'd already lost. But I kept applying, and eventually I landed a part-time gig stocking shelves at a grocery store. It wasn't glamorous, but it was money, and it got me out of the house. The get healthy part was tougher. I was out of shape, eating garbage, and my energy was non-existent. I couldn't afford a gym membership, so I started running. Well, more like jogging, then walking, then gasping for air. I'd go out at night so no one would see me struggling. I also started cooking, which was a disaster at first. I burned rice so badly I set off the smoke alarm. But I kept at it, watching YouTube tutorials, learning how to make cheap, healthy meals. Slowly I started feeling better, not just physically, but mentally. I had energy. I could think clearer. The third thing on my list, figure out what I want, was the hardest. I didn't have dreams or passions like other people seemed to. I'd always liked drawing, but I never thought it could be a career. It was just something I did to pass the time. But one day, I was scrolling online and stumbled across graphic design. People were getting paid to create art, to make things look good. It clicked. This was something I could do. I didn't have a computer or fancy software, but I had a library card. I started going to the library every day after work, using their computers to learn design basics through free tutorials. It wasn't easy. I'd work 8 hours stocking shelves, then spend 3 hours at the library, teaching myself Photoshop and Illustrator. I'd get home exhausted, but I kept going. For the first time, I felt like I was building something, like I had a purpose. I started making small projects, logos for fake companies, posters for imaginary events, just to practice. I posted them online, not expecting much, but a few people liked them. That tiny bit of validation kept me going. About a year into this, I got my first freelance gig. A local coffee shop needed a new menu designed. They paid me $50, which felt like $1 million. I remember holding that cash thinking, I made this with my brain. It was a turning point. From there, I started hustling. I reached out to small businesses, offered to design flyers, business cards, anything they needed. Most said no, but some said yes. Each yes built my confidence, and each no taught me resilience. I saved every penny I could, and eventually I bought a used laptop. That changed everything. I could work from home, take on more projects, and learn faster. I also started posting my designs on social media, building a small following. People started reaching out to me for work. By the time I was 25, I was making enough from freelance design to quit the grocery store job. I'll never forget the day I told my mom I was going full-time as a designer. She cried not because she was worried, but because she was proud. It was the first time I felt like I wasn't letting her down. But the transformation wasn't just about work. It was about how I saw myself. I used to think I was destined to fail, that I wasn't good enough, smart enough, or talented enough. I started challenging those thoughts. Every time I doubted myself, I'd force myself to do something scary. Reach out to a new client, post a design I wasn't sure about, or ask for feedback. Most of the time, it worked out. When it didn't, I learned. I stopped waiting for permission or perfection. I just did the work. Physically, I kept improving too. Running became a habit, and I could go for miles without stopping. I wasn't trying to look like a bodybuilder. I just wanted to feel strong. I also cleaned up my diet even more, learning about macros and meal prep. I wasn't perfect. I still ate pizza sometimes, but I was consistent. The better I felt, the more I wanted to keep going. It was a cycle, but a good one. Mentally, I worked on myself too. I started reading books, not just design books, but ones about mindset, discipline, and growth. I'd never been a reader, but I found stories of people who'd overcome worse than me. It made my problems feel less overwhelming. I also started journaling, which sounds cheesy, but it helped. I'd write down what I was grateful for, what I wanted to achieve, and what I was afraid of. It was like therapy, but free. By 27, I was a different person. I had a steady stream of design clients, a decent portfolio, and enough savings to move out of my mom's basement. I rented a small apartment in the city, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I remember sitting in that empty apartment, just a mattress and a folding chair, feeling like I'd made it. Not because I was rich or famous, but because I wasn't that lost kid anymore. I'd built something from nothing, but the journey wasn't over. I didn't want to just be okay. I wanted to be great. That's where the Ruthless part comes in. I started setting bigger goals. I wanted to work with bigger clients, maybe start my own design agency one day. I also wanted to give back, to help people who felt as lost as I did. I started this YouTube channel to share what I'd learned, not just about design, but about life. I didn't expect anyone to watch, but you guys showed up. Every comment, every like, every subscriber, it's been unreal. Looking back, the biggest lesson I've learned is that transformation isn't a straight line. It's messy, slow, and sometimes you feel like you're going backward. There were days I wanted to quit, days I doubted myself, days I thought I'd never be enough, but I kept showing up. Not because I'm special or superhuman, but because I decided I wasn't going to let my past define me. Rock bottom was my starting point, not my ending. If you're watching this and you feel stuck, I want you to know something. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need a perfect plan, or a ton of money, or even a clear dream. You just need to start. Do one thing today, no matter how small. Clean your space, go for a walk, write down a goal. Those tiny steps add up. They did for me and they can for you. I'm not saying I've arrived. I'm still learning, still growing, still screwing up sometimes. But I'm not afraid of the work anymore. I'm not afraid to fail. I've become ruthless about my time, my energy, and my goals. I don't let excuses or fear stop me, and you don't have to either. One thing I didn't expect on this journey was how much other people's stories would fuel me. As I started sharing bits of my transformation online, I got messages from strangers who were going through their own rock-bottom moments. They'd tell me about losing jobs, battling depression, or feeling like they'd never climb out of their hole. Hearing their struggles and small wins made me realize I wasn't alone in this. It's easy to think you're the only one drowning, but there's a whole world of people out there fighting their own battles. I started connecting with them, swapping advice and cheering each other on. That sense of community, even with people I'd never met in person, gave me strength on days when I felt like giving up. It reminded me that transformation isn't just about you, it's about lifting others as you rise. Another lesson hit me hard. You have to keep redefining what ruthless means. At first, it was about survival, cutting out bad habits, pushing through fear, and grinding every day. But as I grew, it became about protecting my peace and staying true to my vision. I learned to say no to clients who didn't value my work, to walk away from toxic relationships, and to stop comparing myself to others. Being ruthless doesn't mean being heartless. It means being relentless about what matters. Every step forward taught me to guard my time, my energy, and my dreams like they were the most precious things I owned. And honestly, they are. Something I've come to realize is that transformation isn't a destination you reach and then stop. I used to think that once I had a decent job, my own place, and some confidence, I'd be done. But life doesn't work like that. Every time I hit a new milestone, I'd see another mountain to climb. Bigger goals, deeper fears, new challenges. At first, that frustrated me, but now I see it as a gift. It means I'm alive, growing, and still in the game. Being ruthless isn't about crossing a finish line. It's about embracing the fact that the journey keeps going. Each step builds you into someone stronger, someone who can handle whatever comes next. That's what keeps me hungry, and it's what I hope you'll hold on to too. One of the biggest surprises on this journey was learning how much power lies in the small stuff. I used to think transformation meant big dramatic changes, quitting everything, moving across the country, or becoming someone totally new overnight. But for me, it was the little choices that stacked up, showing up to the library every night to learn design, even when I was exhausted, choosing water over soda, or a run over another hour of scrolling, writing down one thing I was proud of each day, even if it was just getting out of bed. Those tiny decisions didn't feel like much in the moment, but over time, they built a foundation I could stand on. If there's one thing I'd tell my younger self, it's this. Don't underestimate the small steps. They're the ones that carry you the farthest. Thank you for watching this. It's been a lot, I know. If you made it this far, you're a real one. Drop a comment and let me know what your rock bottom moment was, or what you're doing to transform your life. I read every single one. If you liked this, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one. I've got more stories, tips, and lessons coming your way. Until then, keep showing up, keep pushing, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.